Hi everyone, welcome back, or welcome if you're new. My name is Kira, and today it's finally time to go over my very massive summer TBR. So I thought I'd do something a little bit different and film outside since it's actually really nice. We've had rain for a while and it's been kind of chilly. So I'm excited that the weather's finally warming up and we can start doing summer things. And I'm just in the summer mood. I love a good seasonal TBR, so I thought I would list all of the books that I have on my summer TBR. It covers a lot of genres. If you've been here, you know that I read cozy fantasy, cozy mystery, thrillers, adventure thrillers, horror. I do have some fantasy and mystery on this, so I'm going to separate them into categories just in case you all want to skip if you don't like certain genres. I tried to pick books that all had a really strong summery vibe or had to do with like water. Summer is a time for like adventures and traveling and being outside. So all of the books have something to do with that. Just reading books that have certain themes during certain seasons really gets me in the mood and gets me excited for the season. So I have about 30 books, so I'm trying not to make the intro too long. So grab a drink and settle in and we'll get started. So I think I'm gonna get started with my cozy mystery section. I have the fewest books there. I love cozy mysteries, but I like to read them a lot of times during fall and winter. But I do have a couple of series that are set in summer, so I wanted to read them now. And the first is Live and Let Chai, the Seaside Cafe Mysteries by Bree Baker. She is actually Julianne Lindsay, and I absolutely adore her Cider Shop Mystery series, and this is like her summer series. I really don't know too much about it, but it takes place in an iced tea shop, and I just think that's very different and fun. And I just think that this author is so great at making her books so seasonal. She also has a Christmas Tree Farm series that I'm going to just inhale at Christmas. I have a feeling that I will be reading more than the first one. The other ones are available through my library, so if I like it, then I will continue. I think she's one of my favorite cozy mystery writers, so I would not be surprised. And I just highly recommend that you look her writing up if you like cozy mysteries. And the second book series that I want to read is the Sloane Krause Mystery Series by Ellie Alexander. It's Death on Tap is the first one. So I read her Bake Shop mystery series and I've absolutely loved it. And I also read her Secret Bookcase series. She is also one of my favorite writers. This one has to do with the tap house, which is so different when it comes to cozy mysteries. They normally take place in like a cafe or a bed and breakfast or something, and I always love that, but I do love something different. So I'm very excited for this. This actually takes place in Leavenworth. Leavenworth, if you don't know, is like a Bavarian town that's in Washington, and in fall they do all these like fall themed festivals, and then in winter they do these this light show. But in summer it's really beautiful because of where it is in the mountains, so I just thought that this would be kind of perfect. It's fun to go up in the mountains during summer, so I just thought, let's start this one. I think there's 5 books in that series. And the last one in my cozy mystery series that I'm going to read is Murder in a Cup by Lauren Elliott. I've talked about this one before, but it's the Crystals and Curiosities series. I read the first one called Steeped in Secrets probably a year ago, and I really liked it. Our main character inherits this curiosity shop, but then she adds tea to it in this seaside town. So again, it's the seaside element. I don't know if this takes place during summer, but the first one just felt very summer. She lives in this little cottage by the ocean. The whole town is very tourist oriented, so it just really lends itself to fun things. And so I really have wanted to get to this one for a while. There's a third one in the series that came out not too long ago that I do want to get to as long as I continue to love the series. All right, so I hope the wind's not bad, but my second category are my lighter, fluffier books. Not all of them are romances. Some of them are just funnier books about friendships. I think summer is a perfect time for lighter romances or just lighter books in general. It's a really happy time in my opinion. So the first one I have talked about in one of my TBRs, but it is The Beekeeper's Cottage by Emma Davies. The front says an absolutely unputdownable feel-good summer read. It's about Grace, who has thrown out her cheating husband and she's trying to keep her property, but she doesn't have as much money someone overhears her. He offers to help her try to keep it as long as she gives him lessons in beekeeping. And so I think it's just really them coming together. He has a mysterious past and both of them getting over some things and building something together. So I always think that's really fun, and I'm a DIYer, so it really fits perfect for me. The next book is Rosalind Palmer Takes the Cake by Alexis Hall. I saw this a long time ago and I was really drawn in by the cover. But it follows a single mother who had to drop out of college, and now her relationships ended and she has to take care of her daughter. And she doesn't really know how she's going to do it, but then she gets accepted into Britain's top feel-good baking show. I've talked about it before, but I absolutely love the Great British Baking Show. I watch it often. I just think they're so cheery and wonderful, and they're so nice, and it's just fun to watch something so, I don't know, wholesome. So I think this one is going to be really funny. I've been told that it's hilarious, so I hope that it's the case. Sometimes people are a little bit misleading on that, but I have been wanting to read this for a while, and just cake in summer just seems perfect, so I'm reading it now. So the next one I want to read is Escape to Honeysuckle Hall by Rebecca Raisin. I've also seen her books around. She has some that are set at Christmas, so I'm really hoping that I like this. I recently read Starting Over at Acorn Cottage, which I also think is a really good summer read, but I've already read it. And it's kind of similar in that our main character leaves the big city because she wants a simpler life. And she's actually starting like a bed and breakfast, and the carpenter that's helping her, they start getting closer and having fun. I just think that these ones are so great at describing the season and just simplifying things and slowing down, which is just something. While I do a lot of fun things during the summer, I also just like to sit outside with my feet in the sprinkler or something. The next one is The Silver Ladies of Penny Lane by Dee MacDonald. I've heard about this one, and it's supposed to follow two older women, Orla and Tess, who are best friends. They own a dressmaker shop together, but they're kind of bored with life, so they decide to join a singles dating. So they end up on this older singles cruise. And I don't know why, but it just sounded really fun, and they're supposed to be super quirky and kind of spunky, and so I think it's going to be a really, while funny book, also super heartwarming and lovely. I recently read The Thursday Murder Club, and I loved reading about their lives and how funny they are, and just, they're older, so they just don't care, they just go for things, and I just think that's really wonderful. So I heard about this a long time ago, and I've been saving it for summer because cruises and everything, whoops, seem more like a summer thing. So I'm really hoping that I love that, because there's some other books in that series and I would love to have a feel-good series to dive into. The next book in the series is Raiders of the Lost Heart by Joe Segura. I recently got this gifted. I was going to try and get it through my library because I've seen it for a while and I've just wanted it. So I'm really happy about this. But this follows an archaeologist who's going into the Mexican jungle to find some remnants of her ancestor. And she has this extremely annoying archaeologist that also gets put on the expedition, and they don't get along, but they also have the tension. And I heard it's hilarious and funny, but also really cute, and I love archaeology and going on expeditions. That's very summer to me, and I always love books about this. I think I have some more in my adventure thrillers that are similar, so yeah, I love that kind of genre, and so having a romance that's funny is really perfect for summer. And the last one that I have is the other ones, there's some contemporary romances, but this is the more of the well-known one, and it's Flawless by Elsie Silver. And it follows our main character, Rhett Eaton, who got into a very public brawl, and he's a bull rider, so he gets stuck with his, I think, manager's daughter to babysit him so he doesn't get into any trouble, and they end up developing a relationship. I've heard about Elsie Silver before, but she is definitely a new author to me. A lot of people, when I did my bookshelf tour, which I posted not too long ago, I said that I don't really read a lot of contemporary romances, but some of them said it's their favorite, one of their favorite genres, and there are a lot of really good books that I'm sleeping on in it, so I really do want to get into it and see if I like them. And again, I think that summer is a really fun time for contemporary romances, and this one's about bull riding, and bull riding is always associated to me with the summer. it was around this time when all of the, you know, like bull riding and fairs were happening. So yeah, it seems summery into my mind, and I think I'm ready to explore the genre. So next, I think I'm going to get into my fantasy books. So I have about 3. I definitely could add more. I'm trying to get back into my higher fantasy reading. So that's why I'm just choosing a few that I have heard are wonderful, but not that complicated. There's not like really complicated magic systems that I have to follow. So hopefully that is the case. But I've chosen these ones because I'm very interested in them and they seem very summer-like. And I feel like I will be more willing to pick them up. And the first one is God Killer by Hannah Kaner, and it's about a kingdom where gods are forbidden and the king hires people called God Killers to destroy them. They've caused a lot of damage. And our main character, I think her name is Kissin. Her family was murdered by a fire god when she was younger, so she delights in killing them. She's very good at it. Until she's hired to kill this younger girl who has a soul bond, I believe it's called, with tiny god of white lies, and she can't kill the god without killing the girl, so she goes on a quest to try and separate them. Obviously there's quite a bit more going on. So they go to the place where the last of the wild gods are. She teams up with a knight on a secret quest. So I really haven't spoiled too much about this. I'm hoping that I like the series. It's not too long, and I don't think it's overly complicated. So again, it seems summery. I've just been wanting to read it lately. And the next one that I do want to read is The Bone Ships by R.J. Barker. It is the first book in the Tide Child trilogy, and it is about a society that used to exist dragons, and now they have this massive navy that they've made out of dragon bones, and then an actual live dragon shows up, and I think all of these nations are competing for it. So again, I don't know that much about it. I just know that a lot of people love R.J. Barker's writing. You know, ships, ocean, I love reading like ocean horror this time of year. So I just decided to move that into The Bone Ships. I've been eyeing it for a long time, and the premise sounds so unique that I just really want to see what it's about. And that goes the same for Assassin's Apprentice by Robin Hobb. Believe it or not, I have not read a single Robin Hobb book, and she is so well loved in the fantasy community. I think this is the Farseer trilogy, but there's the whole Live Ship Trader series as well. There's a whole order, and I've heard you're supposed to read Assassin's Apprentice first. This is the illustrated edition, so I don't have all of the other books. I really want to see if I like her writing first, but there's so many people that I follow who have similar reading tastes to me, and Robin Hobb is like one of their favorite authors. So I am very, very interested in seeing this, and these takes place, I believe, on ships on the ocean, and I just want to see what it's about, and I think it's time. I think I'm ready to read it this summer. So my second to the last category is my cozy fantasy. I have been really diving into cozy fantasy this last year, and I've been loving it. So I feel like this is equal to my like thriller and horror category, which is going to be last. But I have a lot of really great books on this one. The first of which being A Pirate's Life for Tea by Rebecca Thorne. Again, water. I read the first in the Tomes and Tea series, Can't Spell Treason Without Tea, and I absolutely loved it. I think it was my first 5-star of the year. But that is very much like winter and fall. And so I did start this, but it just wasn't the right season for me. They're on a river trying to catch a criminal and figure out where all these like dragon eggs came from. There's a lot going on, but it follows our main character Raina and Chianti, who are in the first book. I loved them. I loved their relationship and the magic. It's very simple but cozy, and so they're traveling a lot. They're on a bit of a quest, a little search, and there's 2 new characters in this one whom I did really like, so I do want to get to this one. I am going to try the audiobook, but I have had it on hold for a while, so I think I will get to that soon. I like to read and listen. I listen and when I'm doing things, and then I'll sit down and read it. So I will let you know how I think about the audiobook, but I'm definitely going to get to that probably in June. And the next book that I wanted to read for such a long time, and I also recently got this gifted, which is really nice, is The Teller of Small Fortunes by Julie Long. It looks absolutely beautiful, and I've just been obsessed with it. I've just wanted to read this about a fortune teller that travels between towns, And she only tells little small fortunes, like will you win at cards next week or something small. She doesn't tell big fortunes because she's learned in the past not to do that. But in one of the towns she gets roped into something and it turns into something much bigger. They're trying to find a lost child. So she joins up with a bunch of kind of an eclectic characters, baker that wants to go on adventures, and all these other people to try and figure out what's going on. This is super cozy. It's one about friendship and coming together and getting over some things in your past. So I think it's going to be really beautiful. I've heard nothing but good things about it actually from the people that have read it, so that's a high priority for me. And the next book that has been on my list for such a long time, and I recently got it also gifted, was A Psalm for the Wild-Built by Becky Chambers. So I did read A Long Way to a Small and Angry Planet in May. I will talk about that in my wrap-up, but I was obsessed with that book and I loved it. Didn't realize that A Psalm for the Wild-Built was written by Becky Chambers, so I'm very excited. This one is about robots that had gained self-awareness and they put down their tools one day and just went off into seclusion. But apparently they come and check in and there's a tea monk that sits down to talk to this robot about what do humans need. And so I think the whole book is just one conversation, is what I've been told. So I am very interested to see how something so unique. I don't think this is like necessarily summer, but I have wanted to read this for a long time, and it's cozy fantasy that's very highly regarded. Martha Wells loves it and she's one of my favorite authors of all times. So I am so curious about this. It's not long at all, but I think it's going to make me think. So yeah, I'll let you know. I have been a little bit intimidated to read that book for some reason. So I'm just gonna dive into it this summer. And the next book that I'm planning on reading is Sean Dirtz and the Hidden City by Dawn Schertz. So I was at a market, a maker's market last weekend, and the author was actually there with his daughter selling books. And he described it as Percy Jackson and Fablehaven, which is something that I really like. So it's middle grade, it's 9 to 12. It has good ratings on Amazon, but he very generously gifted this to me. And normally I am very careful about that because I just really want to give everyone a fair shake, and if I'm not really interested in a book, I don't want to take someone's book and like waste their time or all of their stuff. But he was so nice, and I actually got a picture of it with him. But this one sounded interesting. It's about a young boy who moves to this experimental village and they shrink them down. And I don't know, it just gives me like Honey, I Shrunk the Kids vibes. And I started it when I was there. And I'm only a little ways in, but I think it's fun. They're already eating like a giant frosted flake that's like as big as their head. So I think it's gonna be an interesting time. I will definitely give my honest opinion of it, but I love a good middle grade and I think it sounds cute. So, and the next book that I wanted to read for a very long time is Fairy Fruit. So I saw this on someone's list about the most underrated cozy fantasies, and it's about a orchard that has been barren for centuries, and then all of a sudden all these fae fruits start sprouting. So they're trying to figure out what's going on, and there's all these magical properties to the fae fruit. Again, I know nothing, just that it's cozy and wonderful and so unique. It's not very long, but it's just so underrated and really lovely, and more people need to hear about it. So I'm curious. It's one of those things where you just hear about it and you're like, well, now I have to try it. So I hope it's not a letdown. So the next book that I have on my list is Howl's Moving Castle by Diana Wynne Jones. Believe it or not, I have not actually read Howl's Moving Castle. I was obsessed with Kiki's Delivery Service when I was younger, and that's Diana Wynne Jones' book as well. Studio Ghibli really likes her books and adapting them. I've seen Howl's Moving Castle, but it was a long time ago and I don't really remember all that much about it. So I really want to read this. This is also middle grade, so it shouldn't be too hard. And it's about Sophie. She's one of 3 girls, and she unwittingly tracks the ire of the Witch of the Waste, who turns her into an old woman. And so the only way to break the spell is to find this moving castle that is commanded by Howl, who is not nice, and try to get him to help her break the spell. Really want to see how I like it, and then also go and rewatch the movie, but I want to read the book first just because I don't remember all that much about it. I think it'll be just fun, like I'm rereading it again. I've just heard wonderful things and I'm curious to see if I like the book. The same thing is with The Girl Who Fell Beneath the Sea by Axie O. I've had this for such a long time and it's absolutely beautiful. And it is about Mina, whose town has been ravaged by storms coming from the sea for a long time. And they believe their protector, the sea god, is angry at them. So every year they sacrifice a beautiful maiden. And this year her brother's fiance, the woman he loves, is going to be sacrificed, so she follows them out and actually gets taken instead. And I think she gets taken to the Sea Kingdom, and I've avoided the plot after that, but it sounds really beautiful. I love ocean kingdoms, and I just love that it's more Asian culture in this one. They're very cleverly written. I really loved Daughter of the Moon Goddess, so I'm hoping that there's just different elements of different cultures in this that will make it really unique. And I've had that for a while, probably 2 years, so I really want to get into it. I've always wanted to read it during summer, but I forgot about it. And my bookshelf tour, I got a big list of books that I wanted to read from that tour. The next book in this category that I want to read is The House on the Cerulean Sea by T.J. Klune. So I heard about him a long time ago, and I've seen this book. It is about a caseworker that travels to a really remote orphanage that has very dangerous magical children to see how dangerous they are. And this caseworker, when he goes there, starts getting closer with the caretaker who loves these children, would protect them, and also the children, figuring out the secrets. So I've heard it's really beautiful. I know TJ Klune has Under the Whispering Door as well, but I've never read his writing, so I really do hope that I enjoy this one as well. The last book in the series is The Hands of the Emperor by Victoria Goddard. So I heard about this when I was looking up summer books a while ago, actually, and so it's been on my list a while. I don't have it, so I am going to be checking it out from the library. It is about a secretary to this emperor who just on a whim one day invites the emperor to his family's summer vacation, and in doing so he could be executed for that if the emperor had wanted to. That it's really beautiful, and it's about friendship and getting past duty and learning about family. So I think that it's going to be beautiful. It's honestly very mysterious. People don't really talk about the plot that much, and the synopsis is it doesn't tell you that much about what's going to go on, so I'm curious about it. I think the other ones are a little bit more of a priority for me, but I am definitely trying to get to that one this summer. All right, so my last category are my summer thriller horror books. So I do have quite a few of them on this book. I think summer is when I like to read a lot of, there's like summer slashers or summer mysteries, and then some water horror. It's just, I've read most of the water horror, but there is one book that is on its way, and it's like the one book that I've allowed myself to buy for this, and that is Fathomless by Greg Beck. I've talked about Greg Beck before. I really like adventure thrillers, and he's more like adventure horror. Fathomless follows a character that we've seen in some of the other series named Kate Granger, who's this marine biologist. And I think her father disappeared years ago, and she joins this expedition to go find them in this mysterious area. It is underwater. I believe they're either caving or they're in an area that requires, you know, like boat access. And there's 3 in her series so far, and it's Fathomless, Leviathan, and Abyss. And yeah, I'm just very excited about it. I have wanted to read it for a very long time. I did order the book finally, just because I really want to read it this summer. I exhausted a lot of my water horror books that I had last year, so I really hope it lives up to my hype. The next one that I wanted to read since I saw it was Suburban Hell by Maureen Kilmer. It is about a group of moms that live in the suburbs, and they just want to build a she shed. So they're all these friends, and they build a she shed, but they accidentally unleash a demon, and one of their friends gets possessed. So I don't know, it sounds funny. I don't know if it's supposed to be funny, but it's definitely like a thriller horror area. So I think there's elements to it. It's going to be more of a lighthearted thriller, maybe. I don't know, just a bunch of moms, because I'm a mom that lives in suburb, you know, getting possessed or having to deal with it on top of everything else that they deal with. Sounds entertaining to me, and I love a good like demonic possession book, so yeah, I'm intrigued by that one. I think it's gonna be funny. The next book that I wanted to read for a while is You May Now Kill the Bride by Kate Weston. I bought this last summer, and my sister was getting married, and I love you but I just like, I didn't think it was right to read it then. And my brother's getting married this summer. Also, love you guys, Tristan, but I really do want to read that this summer. Summer is like wedding season, so I think it's the perfect time. But it's about a group of girls that come to their friend's bachelorette party weekend at a wellness retreat, and the bride dies. So they're all suspects and they all have to figure it out. I just think it's going to be interesting, you know, just to see their dynamic, and I love a good mystery, so hopefully the author is very good at making twists and turns. I just saw it and I thought I had to read it. The back looks entertaining. The same with my best friend's Exorcism by Grady Hendrix. So I haven't really read Grady Hendrix books, but I've had this one for a while, and I had it for fall, but I've heard this is more for summer. It's got a very like 80s tone to it. Two best friends go skinny dipping one night, and then one of them starts to come out differently. I've heard it's really great for summer, and if you really like 80s kind of, I don't know if it's slasher-ish. I've told that like you like that sort of vibe, then this one is very fun to read. So as I said, during summer I love a lighthearted book, so I do want to read spookier books, but I don't want anything that's like too intense. So the next book that I have is The Guest List by Lucy Foley. I actually don't have that one. It's one of the books that I'm going to be getting through my library, but it is also about wedding season. It's about a wedding that takes place in Ireland, I believe, and somebody turns up dead. There's quite a lot going on with the bride and the groom side. I have not read a Lucy Foley book. I've seen her at the stores. I think she's one of the more popular writers. Have heard mixed things about her writing, but I think a lot of people do like The Guest List, and it sounds good for summer, so I think I'm going to start with that one and see if I like her writing. Let me know in the comments if you've read her books and which ones that you like, or if you like them. No spoilers, please. All right, so I have 4 more books, but I need to go pick up my children. So I think the next time you will see me, I'll probably be inside. So I will be back. All right, so I am back inside, and my mom's keeping an eye on them for a couple of minutes, so I'm going to do the last 4. The next book that I have is Amazonia by James Rollins. So in my bookshelf tour, I showed this one, and I did say that I'd read it, but I'd actually only started it and I had never finished it. So I do want to finish this one. It's about one day a operative that had gone missing years before stumbles out of the rainforest, and he can't say anything. He's scarred, he'd been through something, and everyone else that was in the expedition that he was a part of had gone missing. So the government assembles a team, including the son of the former expedition leader, to go into the jungle to figure out what happened. There's quite a lot going on, but there's rangers involved, there's a mystery in the jungle, something like super dark. I really like James Rollins' writings, particularly his earlier writings, because I think it's a little bit spookier. There's always interesting elements, and he does his research, and I like the setting of it being in a jungle, and I think it's going to be quite dark and spooky in certain spots, so I'm very excited to read this. So the next book that I have is The Anomaly by Michael Rutger. I was recently looking up books that take place in mines or caves just because I think that's interesting, and people said this one was really great, and I realized that I had it. So I found this on a whim. I hadn't heard anything about it before then. It just sounded interesting. They describe the main character as a cross between Indiana Jones and someone from the X-Files. So he runs a TV show, and people don't really like respect him that much because of a lot of conspiracy theories, but he finds record of somebody that went missing in a cave in 1909. They discovered a mysterious cave high up in the Grand Canyon. So again, I'm from Arizona, and like summer and hot weather, this just seems perfect for this time of the year. But he goes in there with his film crew, and the cave there's something really wrong with it, and so he has to try and get out. I hope it's nothing too cosmic, because I don't like cosmic like horror thriller too much, but I'm gonna check it out and see. So the last 2 books that I have are actually books that I wanted to read for a while, but I don't have in my collection. They're readily available through my library, so I'm gonna put those on hold at some point. The first being Reckless Girls by Rachel Hawkins. I've seen this cover around, and I thought it was kind of a romance for some reason. I don't know why, but it is a thriller, and it's about a couple who's hired to take 2 young college girls out to this island. They're seeking adventure. When they get there, there's another couple there. So they all become friends, but the island has a really mysterious past: shipwrecks, cannibalism, possibly murder. And then some stranger shows up and all these cracks start to form, and then people go missing and it becomes like a murder mystery, but they're very isolated. It sounds intriguing to me. Somewhat like a locked room, but on an island. So I don't know. It just sounds very interesting. People say that it's really perfect for summer. It does take place on an island. But I think the dynamics between all the different groups and maybe not knowing someone as well as you thought you would should be clever and interesting. I've heard that the twists in it are very, very good. So I hope so. I've read a couple of thrillers this month whose twists have been okay, but I did see kind of coming, so I do want something that throws me for a loop a little bit. Which leads me into my final book, called Summit Lake by Charlie Donlea. I have heard that this one also has really wonderful twists. It is about an investigative reporter that gets assigned to cover a recent murder that happened. A young college student, a law student, was murdered. So she goes to this town. The town is reeling from this and tries to discover what happened, tries to dig into her secrets, her relationship, and she finds parallels between her and her own life. I think it's going to be very interesting. I've heard that her putting herself into the murdered victim's shoes a lot has a lot of like twists and turns to it, and it's very interesting to see how investigators and victims' lives kind of intertwine. So I think it's going to be interesting. I've heard that the audiobook version also is very, very good. So I'm just going to be doing a mix for a lot of these books. Those are all the books that I have. I think it's a really good amount for the next 3 months, and it also leaves me room to add extra books in depending on how the mood strikes. So let me know what's on your Summer TBR. I always love to make lists, if not for this year, then for next year. And as always, if you're still here, thank you. I always appreciate it. If you like my content, please like, subscribe, comment, do all the things. And I hope you all have a wonderful week, and I will see you next time.